But first, today's video is brought to you by MMORC.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro, which you can get for just $15, as well as Office 2019 Pro and Office 365. And if you act right now, you can get an additional 27% off with my code JOK27 at checkout, and that'll knock the price down on Windows 10 Pro from $15.29 all the way down to $11.16. And of course, they accept a wide variety of payment from PayPal to credit cards to Bitcoin. So be sure to act now and hit up the links down in the description below. Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and I hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to talk to you about a beloved franchise of mine that is finally taking a year off from producing the same shitty drivel that they have been rolling out every single year for the past decade or more. And of course, I'm talking about the WWE series of simulator games, as they themselves like to refer to them. These games have been coming out for a long time, and I've been a fan of them going all the way, even before there was, their simulator type games from the 2K series, going all the way back to old school games on the NES. I've always loved wrestling games and having things like character creators and, building up your character and you're being able to create your own roster and that sort of thing. And that's something that WWE games have always done really well, in my personal opinion, although fan reactions to these titles have always been very mixed. Some people have their favorites, some ones that they hate more than others. But there's no doubt about it that WWE 2K20, in case you're not familiar with it, came out at the end of 2019, and it is by far the worst entry in the history of the franchise, just completely riddled with bugs, physics issues, character models that look just awful and look nothing like their actual real-life counterparts. And, if it was just, the way the characters looked or the graphics, I guess you could maybe overlook it. But then the game-breaking bugs that were, honestly, the game is remembered more for that than anything else, because they are just hilarious. I remember seeing one of the first gameplay videos, one of the buggy gameplay clips for 2K20 back in late 2019, and just laughing my ass off hysterically. Like, I could not get enough of watching these videos of the absolute horrible physics in WWE 2K20, and thankfully they have actually, taken heed from their fan base and decided to take a year off from producing this shit show here in 2020, as I'm sure, there was a game already in development, and now they are going to be pushing it off and not releasing a simulator type game in the year 2020, but they are going to be releasing a cartoon arcadey style game, actually, which is sort of similar in a way to WWE All-Stars, but not exactly. A lot of the fan base is divided on that one as well. So I'm going to get into that, but first I want to take a look at a direct quote from the developers behind this for WWE 2K20. Where they said this: "We are applying what we've learned from 2K20 to the next WWE 2K simulation game with a renewed focus on quality and fun." In this announcement, they said this, and as part of that commitment, we are extending the production timeline and will not be releasing WWE 2K simulation game in 2020. Also, to help resolve these issues, 2K has brought in Patrick Gilmore to work on the new entry into the 2K series of wrestling games, and he previously had experience working on some Disney games back in the early 90s, which were actually some of the best licensed game franchises I've ever seen during my time playing video games, which goes all the way back to the original NES coming out. And, some of those old school games back then, like Lion King and Aladdin, were some fantastic licensed titles, the likes we don't really see very often, nowadays, with seeing movie franchises and stuff transferred into video games. Back then, we actually got some pretty good bangers on the Sega Genesis as well as the Super Nintendo with games that were directly worked on by Patrick Gilmore. How well that's going to translate into wrestling titles, remains to be seen, and that was a long time ago. But hopefully, changing things around there and bringing in some new leaders to sort of direct the team that's working on these games is hopefully, going to be the beginning of a good thing. So that was the announcement we got a couple of days ago, and honestly, I am welcoming them taking this year off. I think we could definitely do with WWE 2K taking a year off from making this game. This is something similar we've seen with Assassin's Creed games, where they decided to finally take a year off after putting out games year after year from like 2008 to like 2016, and then it all kind of came to a head with Assassin's Creed Unity, which had its own terrible game-breaking bugs, physics, graphics, animation, just pretty much everything about that game was completely broken. They did continue along with releasing Syndicate the following year, but that was already in development. But then after that, they did finally take a full year off, and then they came back with Origins, which I think we can all agree was one of the best entries into the franchise, at least ever since the Ezio trilogy, which released very early on in the series. And they came out with Origins, and then they came out with Odyssey, both of which have been very positively received titles, good reviews over on Metacritic, and sort of evolving in a lot of ways from their original formula into becoming more of an RPG type experience with things like skill trees and that, which I think fit perfectly into the Assassin's Creed franchise. And it's something that I had actually been thinking about for years. I was like, why don't they just go full RPG with these games? Because the open world nature and all of that and the combat, it would just fit perfectly. And honestly, it does. And I think Origins and Odyssey are the best games they've made in years. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on that. Now, even though we're not going to be getting a traditional 2K simulator game in the year 2020, they did just reveal yesterday a new arcade-style game, kind of in the vein of WWE All-Stars, which came out over 10 years ago. And honestly, the fan base is quite mixed on this for 2K Battlegrounds. And a lot of it is because they were just hoping for an All-Stars 2, which was a very popular arcade-style entry in the series, and something I played back on the 360 and did enjoy playing as well. It was a nice kind of change of pace from the regular 2K series of games. And, this has not been received very well over on YouTube, currently with a downvote of 6,050 and 4,526 upvotes. So it's sort of almost split down the middle, but it's leaning definitely towards being more disliked, as people were hoping for a good simulator 2K WWE game, and instead they're going this arcade route, and they're also not doing an All-Stars game, which people were hoping for an All-Stars 2. And then you've got the Battlegrounds franchise name behind it, which, if you're familiar with that, was actually also part of an NBA game where they did an NBA 2K Battlegrounds game, which was completely riddled with microtransactions of the worst kind, things like randomized card packs that you had to purchase in order to unlock, players and cosmetics and all that sort of stuff in that game. And it was one of the worst cases of microtransactions you probably could have seen. It probably just didn't get as much publicity as some other titles because it wasn't as popular of a franchise, having these arcadey style basketball games, which haven't really been that great since like the old school NBA Jam titles. But yeah, having things like the randomized card packs, which you had to pay for to open and then get stuff. Obviously, people are afraid the same thing is going to happen with WWE 2K Battlegrounds, with the same people working behind it in the 2K franchise. So that's something we might see in this game. Like, hey, do you want to play as Stone Cold Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan or whoever? Then, you got to buy packs, and hopefully maybe you'll unlock the wrestler you wanted to have, or a certain variant of that character. Maybe you'll get Stone Cold Steve Austin in his plain black trunks, but if you want to get him in the jeans with the skull vest and all that stuff, maybe you'll have to get them in a pack. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You'll probably have to throw real money into the game in order to get those packs, but we will just have to wait and see on that if they continue down the road that they did with the previous Battlegrounds title. But with 2K's track record and things they do with the normal NBA franchise, I would doubt it for a split second that they're going to do the same exact thing with this title right here. So it's not something that's really going to be on my radar too much, but if it comes out and they actually do a good job with it, then I'm completely open to it. I would love to play a good arcade style wrestling game. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I know for maybe a lot of you out there, maybe this wasn't a particular interesting topic to you, in which case you probably didn't make it this far in the video. But I'm a long-time wrestling fan, and especially with the video games and everything. Honestly, in recent years, I've enjoyed those more than actually watching wrestling on television. So yeah, seeing something like this is actually a good thing, and I look forward to next year, or whenever they're ready to actually release a full-fledged title, and to see everything they can do with it, with the story mode, with the graphics, the character renders and all of that stuff. Hopefully it is for the better at the end of the day, just like we saw with Assassin's Creed taking a year off to make a much more improved product. But I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, guys. I look forward to your feedback, thoughts, opinions, and everything down in the comments below as always. If you enjoyed this video, stick a thumbs up on it, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Ta-ra.